Hey guys, James again for TFBTV, and damn, it feels good to be back. I took February off, but that's okay because we had a couple new exciting additions to the channel. International celebrity bloke on the range, he's been added to TFBTV. And Andrew, the sensual grizzly bear of ammo from the chopping block. So welcome aboard, guys. I hope you guys were enjoying their content as much as I've been. Anyways, let's get down to business. I want to start with a little top 5. Now, I did a top 5 a few months back. It was top 5 overrated concealed carry guns. And a few of you in the comments suggested that I do a top 5 underrated concealed carry guns. And since I'm a positive guy and I like that spin on it, I decided to go with it. So without further ado, the top 5 underrated concealed carry guns. All right, so do me a favor real quick. Go to Smith & Wesson's website, find revolvers, and in the find a revolver section, select 6-round capacity, .357 Magnum, and small frame. Tell me how many results you get. Actually don't, because I'll tell you, the answer's 0. So what am I driving at here? The number 5 most underrated concealed carry gun, in my opinion, is the Chiappa Rhino. Why do I say that? I know that's a bit of a controversial pick, but hear me out on this, guys. The 200DS in particular, it's got a lightweight frame, but it shoots .357 Magnum and it holds 6 rounds. There are a lot of 5-round small frame .357 Magnums on the market, but there aren't many that also hold 6 rounds and are in compact frames, and especially that use an alloy frame like the Chiappa Rhino does, that keeps the weight down even further. So the Rhino is only 24 ounces, but you've got 6 rounds of .357 at your disposal. Smith & Wesson's lightest 6-round .357 Magnum is the 66, the Model 66 Combat, which is 33 ounces. Now, to be fair to Smith & Wesson, Smith & Wesson also has a 12-ounce, the 340 and the 360. It's a 12-ounce 5-shot .357 J-frame. And, you know, that may sound better. It weighs half as much as the Rhino, and the Rhino, you're only getting 1 extra round. But have you tried the 340 or the 360 PD with full house .357 Magnum? It's not very pleasant. And that's the difference, really, between the Rhino and conventional revolvers, is that the Rhino fires from the bottom chamber. So that translates to reduced recoil, drastically reduced recoil, with .357 shooting like something closer to a 38 in terms of recoil. Whereas something like the 340 or the 360 from Smith & Wesson, that thing kicks like a mule. Price is about the same for both of them too. You're looking at, you know, $1,000 MSRP, which is, I think really you're gonna find the Chiappa Rhino for around $750 street price and the 340 or the 360 for over $800. So neither of them are cheap, but that's just something to think about, guys. Not many revolvers that are pocketable, 6-round, and have the added bonus of reduced recoil. And the Rhino also takes moon clips, a nice little added bonus. Anyways, I think the Rhino is one of the more underrated concealed carry guns. Certainly there are downsides to it. Like if you have your finger in the wrong place and it fires off from that bottom chamber, you're gonna get zapped a little bit. Did you get a little?
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
It tells you it's there.
Yeah. The pluses definitely outweigh the negatives, and I think this is an underrated concealed carry gun. All right, now moving on to number 4, and this one may be a little bit even more controversial than number 5. Now, you guys may have heard of the Beaubourg Xr9. The Beaubourg Xr9 is essentially a bullpup style single stack 9mm pistol. Bullpup, you know, it's a weird term to use talking about a pistol, but it was an ingenious design for a pistol. Essentially what it did, you would load the magazine, and in every other auto loader, pistol-wise, ever made, when you're putting the magazine in, the rounds are always, at all times, behind the chamber, and then they go up into the chamber. With the Beaubourg, you actually loaded the magazine, and the magazine rested under the chamber, and the magazine would feed backwards. You'd have a round, it would pull out of the back, and then up into the chamber above the magazine, then it would fire. That would allow you to move the entire muzzle, the entire upper half of the gun. You could move it in about 1.5 inches back. So what you had with the Beaubourg Xr9 is a pistol with a Glock 26 length barrel, 3.5 inches, in a 5-inch overall length package versus the 6.5-inch length of the Glock 26. So really ingenious design, but it was really expensive. It seems like they were over $1,000. It seems like they really couldn't get production going. And they also had a little bit of a problem with that extraction process I was describing, ripping the rims off of certain types of ammunition, so you had to use approved ammo. Anyways, Alex C had one and he spoke very favorably of it. And Nathaniel just got to check them out at SHOT Show 2017 because now they're with Bond Arms. I've met the people at Bond Arms. They're great people, and now they're going to start selling what was the Beaubourg Xr9. It's going to be called the Bond Arms Bullpup. And they say they're going to get the price down to about $850 without sacrificing quality. I believe if anybody can do that, they can. And on top of that, they're also going to be honoring the warranty of the old Beaubourg Xr9s for those of you who've purchased one. So very classy move. And if you look at the stats, they look great for carry guns. Almost pocketable 9mm. You have 6+1. They are less than 1 inch thick, and they weigh only 17 ounces. Anyways, it's kind of an obscure carry piece, and I thought it'd be cool to mention on this top 5 underrated firearms list. Moving on to number 3, it wouldn't be a James Reeves top 5 list if a Glock wasn't on it. So let me tell you about the number 3 pick. Do you guys remember when Glock introduced their first single stack gun? No, it wasn't the 42. No, it wasn't the 43, the Glock 36. And for whatever reason, it wasn't popular, it wasn't very successful, and in fact, in a sense, I almost blame the Glock 36 for the Glock 42 and the Glock 43 taking so long to come out. Maybe Glock, no pun, was a little gun shy after the 36 didn't do as well as they thought it would. It was only 1.1 inches thick, weighed only 22 ounces, and you got 7 rounds of 45 ACP in a very concealable package. I had one, I thought it was awesome. The Glock 36 was such a great idea that you guys may remember Springfield straight up copied it with the XDS in 45. Now, I can understand it being less popular now. 45's kind of fallen out of vogue. You can get smaller, thinner 9mm that are very effective. But at the time when it came out, there was no reason for it to be unpopular. It handled recoil well, you have the full host of Glock accessories available, and I mean, it was a thin, very concealable gun. So do me a favor and see if you can find an ultra-compact 1911 and 45 ACP that weighs less than 22 ounces, costs under $500, and is 100% reliable. Something tells me you can't do it. Guys, I swear to God, I'm not a Glock fanboy, but Glock 36, my number 3. And to be totally honest with you, I would flip-flop the Glock 36 and the Chiappa Rhino, but I really wanted to lead in with that whole Smith & Wesson search thing, So moving on to number 2, I really like the Kahr series of guns. I like their single stack 9s and 380s. They're very innovative. They use an offset feed ramp and a few other patented technologies to keep these guns at like 0.9 inches thick. Good triggers, even though the reset's a little bit long. Lightweight, and the C series was a very close runner-up for this list. The C series being their economy series, where you save $200, but you don't really sacrifice a lot. You get like traditional Lands and Groove rifling versus polygonal, so on. Anyways, so I wanted to shed some light on a little bit more obscure piece of Kahr history. So it seems like almost 20 years ago when Kahr started producing reliable, pocketable, concealable, single stack 9mm, and maybe about 15 years ago, they started producing the polymer versions of those guns that have been wildly popular ever since. Now, about the same time that they introduced the Kahr P9 for the first time, which was a 7+1 gun right in the middle of their line in terms of size. They also introduced the PM9, which is a smaller version of the P9. It's got a little bit shorter barrel, and it's got a little bit shorter overall height. So I kind of picture all the guys at Kahr sitting around like on a Monday morning, having their monthly conference or whatever, drinking coffee, going through paperwork, and the smartest guy in the room says, hey, you know, the hard part to conceal is the butt, not the slide, right? And if you have a longer slide, you get a little bit more velocity, you get a little bit more sight radius, and that's a good thing. So what if we took the top of the P9 and we matched it with the bottom of the PM9? And thus, the P9 Covert was born. They stopped producing that gun in 2006, so it's rare and it's hard to find, but it is exactly what I just described. It is essentially a PM9 butt with a P9 with the longer slide and the longer sight radius and the longer barrel. And I think it's brilliant because the butt's the hard part to conceal, right? So you can have a gun that's just as easy to conceal, has the exact same footprint as the PM9 if you're a traditional carrier at least, but you get a little bit extra velocity, you get a little bit extra sight radius. And you know what? A lot of us don't like to dangle our pinkies, right? That's fine. If you have the PM9 butt, then you just get the P9 magazine or the T9, the even larger one, the 8-round, and just get it with finger groove extensions. Carry that. So you can use the PM9 mags, the P9 mags, the T9 mags, and if you want to add a finger groove extension, you're not going to sacrifice any performance, but you're going to be getting back something, some dividends in terms of concealability. And not to mention, they were extremely high quality. Stainless steel slides and barrels, polygonal rifling, really top of the line guns. And the funny thing about it is it was such a good idea. I mean, I think, again, maybe Springfield stole it recently, just like the Glock 36 idea. Those guys at Springfield, they are pretty smart. But it cracks me up because, you know, it was such a good idea that I find posts, I'll stumble across forum posts from time to time where guys have bought Kahr P9s and then they'll just take a saw and cut a little bit of the bottom off to make it that M9 butt. So if anyone out there is selling a Covert and wants to shoot me an email, please do. Otherwise, I'm going to get my hacksaw, get to work, and start making my number 2, the Kahr P9 Covert. All right, guys, my number 1 pick. Big time underdog. I feel like something that is probably one of the most overlooked guns in terms of concealed carry, and that is the Bersa BP9CC. Some of you may not have even heard of Bersa. Bersa is an Argentinian manufacturer. They actually make the standard sidearm for the Argentinian military. But Bersa made a big splash about 2 decades ago when they came out, I think in the 90s, with the Bersa Thunder 380. And I remember working at a gun store and people buying them and bringing them in and loving them. You know, they were buying them for like $200 and absolutely loving them, saying they're 100% reliable, cheap, they work well. So a few years back, Bersa decides to start making a polymer single stack 9mm. They made the BP9CC and they just smashed it out of the park. So it's an 8+1 round gun, which already sets it a little bit apart from most of the subcompact single stack offerings you see today that are like 6-7 rounders. It's only 0.9 inches thick and it weighs only 21 ounces. So I want to go over some features of this gun that absolutely blew my mind whenever I reviewed it about a year or 2 years ago. And I just couldn't believe that a compact carry gun would pack all these features. So it came with a rail, which is kind of cool, an ambidextrous mag release. That's also pretty cool, especially for you lefties. Things got a little bit more interesting when I found out that it uses a SIG P-series front sight and a Glock rear sight. So if you have plenty of sight options. Anything, any Glock rear sight, any SIG front sight. And all that was really neat, but it has a 4-pound trigger out of the box. Excellent trigger, the best I've ever felt in a concealed carry gun, and it's 4 pounds out of the box, not like Glock where it says 5.5 pounds on the box and it's actually 7.5 or 8 pounds. I mean, this thing is a 4-pound out of the box trigger, and it's an extraordinary trigger. In fact, it's a little light for concealed carry as far as I'm concerned. But that said, with a 4-pound trigger, man, you can really run this thing. And all of those features in a reliable, well put together gun, and you can find it for $300 to $350, which to me is just amazing. So I am surprised that they aren't a little bit more heard of, that they don't sell a little bit better, that you don't see them around a little more. Now, I will say this, the finish, the actual finish on the slide could have been better on the one that I bought, but that's nothing a can of Krylon can't fix, or you could just get Cerakoted and you're still coming out far less than what you would pay for a Kahr P9 or a Glock 42 or 43. So anyways, I think you guys, if you haven't yet, check out the Bersa BP9cc if you're looking for a concealed carry gun. They pack a lot of features in for the price. Anyways, guys, I hope you like that list, as usual, even if you disagree with it. And hey, thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be back, and I'm proud to be with the TFBTV crew, including our new members. You've got a lot more content from me coming up. I already have some reviews and some Mythbusters that are uploaded, you'll see in the coming weeks. In the meantime, if you have any questions about any of the content in this video, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. And thank you to our sponsors, ProxyBid and Ventura Munitions. I will see you guys next week.